The Twin Gambit is a movie about Cake and Cream. These two are twin sisters, same mom and dad. They look exactly alike, but their bodies are totally different. Cake, the older sister, is slim, sexy, attractive, outgoing, and energetic. She's a smart, quick-witted marketing person who's good at talking to people. Cream, on the other hand, is chubby and overweight. She's a plus-size fashion designer who weighs over 330 pounds. The two sisters were living peacefully in their own little worlds. But a fashion design competition changed everything. Cake has to pretend to be Cream to fill in for her sister as a designer. The thing is, Cream signed up for this new fashion design talent show a while back. Tull, the big boss of a famous fashion company, really loves Cream's work. Because he's a fan, Cream easily made it through the first round. Cream got the good news and was so happy she jumped up and down. But a second later, her friend told her something that hit her hard. See, the final round means you have to show up in person and present your design ideas. A bunch of judges will give feedback and vote. One of the main judges is Tull, the head of the fashion company. Hearing Tull's name made Cream super scared. Turns out, Tull is Cream's secret high school crush. To confess her feelings to the guy she liked, Cream bought a bouquet of flowers and quietly put it on his desk. Cream was really hoping Tull would like her back. But what she didn't expect was that Tull just grabbed the flowers and threw them in the trash. This really messed her up mentally. She has a fear that makes it hard to breathe. Just seeing Tull's face makes her panic. Cream's worried that when she goes on stage, she'll get so nervous that she'll get sick and won't be able to give her presentation. After Cake heard the whole story, she kept cheering her sister on. With Cake's encouragement, Cream decided to challenge herself and participate in the live presentation. To get over her fear, Cream practiced a lot and even put up pictures of Tull all over the house. After a while of trying hard and experimenting, Cream felt like she could go on stage and present her work. On the day of the final round, Cream went to the venue feeling 100% confident. But when Cream saw Tull, she was shocked to find herself getting so nervous she couldn't breathe again. Cream felt like she couldn't go on stage and present her work right now. Reluctantly, Cream called her sister for help. Cream gave Cake a wireless earpiece to communicate with. Cake nervously went backstage to replace her sister in the final round, constantly remembering the lines her sister had quickly taught her. Just as Cake was relaxing and getting herself together, a handsome guy suddenly came over to talk to her. Seeing Cake's name tag and her anxious expression, he immediately guessed that Cake was a little scared before going on stage. To help Cake relax, he stood behind her to give her some support and help her feel less afraid. Cake immediately felt much better. She'd actually met this handsome guy before. Cake even challenged him to a game of darts. This also left a deep impression on this guy, Pete. Soon, Cake went on stage pretending to be her sister to give her presentation. Judge Cindy saw that the body size on the application and the real person were totally different, so she asked her why. Cake had to say what her sister had taught her beforehand, saying that she had been seriously ill before and had lost weight. This reasonable explanation convinced everyone, and no one suspected anything. Then Cake went on to present her sister's work. Because Cream was guiding her through the wireless earpiece, Cake's presentation received thunderous applause. Finally, Cake won the competition as expected. Tull even went on stage to give her the prize money. The two sisters thought this was the end of the story. After all, Cream just wanted to win the competition's prize money, to have money to open a fashion store. But what happened next surprised them. Their friend came to tell them good news. Tull decided to invite this year's winner, Cream, to be the design director for the Dreamer Company. It turned out that Cindy wanted Tull's fashion company. She had plotted to frame the previous design director, wanting to take over Tull's fashion company. But Tull, in order to protect his mother's hard work, was determined to fight Cindy to the end. Tull decided to hire Cream into the company as design director to save the company. In order to be able to work with the person she liked, Cream intended to take the job and planned to confess everything to Tull. But her friends told them it was too late, because Tull hates lying and cheating the most. Even if they confessed to the deception in the competition, they would lose this job. And it would also affect Cream's future in the fashion industry later. This made Cream confused, hesitating and unable to make a decision. But today she finally made a choice. It turns out that this morning, Cream accidentally ran into Tull in the elevator. She was shocked to find that she could face him in person. She wasn't even getting breathless anymore. Although Tull noticed that Cream looked a lot like the picture on the application, he just dismissed his suspicions when Cream casually said her name was Joss. Little did he know, Cream just made up a name on the spot. When she got home, Cream asked her sister for help again. She asked her to take her place at Tull's company. Until she successfully lost weight, they would switch back. Cake, I'm really begging you. Can you help me one more time? Let me work at Dreamer Company. The creative director job at Dreamer Company is really important to me. After this, I promise I won't ask you for anything else. Although Cream sincerely asked Cake for help, Cake initially chose to refuse. But that night, when Cake saw a picture of Tull, she realized she had feelings for him. Thinking of how he looked when she was on stage, Cake finally changed her mind. The next day, Cake told her sister that she could help her go to work in her place. They agreed to stay in touch via wireless earpiece. Soon Cake went to meet Tull. He asked her a few questions about fashion design. Because of her sister's wireless guidance, Cake quickly passed the interview. Not surprisingly, she got the creative director job. However, things didn't go as Cream expected. She didn't expect her sister, after working for a while, to tell her that she had fallen deeply in love with Tull. I like Tull. The two sisters like the same man at the same time. I like Tull too. Since when? Since the first time I met him. It turned out that since Cream agreed to let Cake go to work in her place, Cream had started to implement a weight loss plan. She decided to lose weight to her sister's weight in 3 months. Before starting her design job, Cake went to arrange her marketing work first. Unexpectedly, Cake accidentally met Pete, and he asked for her phone number. But Cake cleverly rejected his advances because she felt that only Tull was her type. The next day, Cake got ready to go to work at Dreamer Company. To avoid revealing any flaws, Cake even gave her ID card to her sister to keep. At the company, Cake was made difficult by Wazin in the purchasing department. Wazin asked Cake a lot of tricky and strange questions, but her sister easily helped her cope through the wireless earpiece. Cake also promised that she could design unique styles to help the company win the bid and get out of trouble. Her presence made Tull very satisfied, but this action made the veteran designer Mintra in the company jealous. She deliberately tried to fire Cake, then replace her and take the position of design director. So Mintra deliberately poured hot coffee on Cake. Luckily, Tull came to her rescue at this time, asked his subordinates to help her treat the burns, and allowed her to go home early to rest. This made Cake feel that Tull was warm and thoughtful. She increasingly felt that he was her ideal type. But what Cake didn't expect was that she would meet Pete at the company. It wasn't until she was introduced by a colleague that Cake knew that Pete and Tull had been competing with each other since they were students. Whether it was in their studies, careers, or love, they had to compete for victory and defeat. Moreover, Pete is currently the assistant of the boss of the F Fashion Group. If he chooses to use the design brand of Dreamer Company, it means that the company has successfully overcome the crisis. Therefore, Cake urged her sister to quickly design a spring and summer collection for the company. Cream temporarily had no inspiration. With a mindset of losing weight and relaxing, she wore sportswear out for a jog and accidentally bumped into Tull, and accidentally fell into his arms. Then they accidentally met again at a buffet restaurant. The two hit it off, so they decided to share a table together. Cream was inspired while chatting with Tull, and found the keywords for her design inspiration. Jigsaw. When she got home, Cream immediately designed the spring and summer collection for Dreamer Company. Then through Cake introduced the idea of the work to everyone. As a result, Tull was extremely satisfied with the idea. However, Wazin seemed very disappointed. It turned out that he had been bought off by a rival company long ago. He had always been secretly betraying the company. Knowing that Cream had finished designing the work, he sent someone to sneak into the company to steal her design draft. Tull had no idea what was going on. He asked Cream to have a buffet to celebrate, and after dinner, he enthusiastically drove her home. Cream, worried about being caught in her lie, deliberately went to the supermarket near her house to buy things, and hurriedly sent him away. But what you hate, you get. Tull left, and came back to bring her something she had left in the car, and was surprised to see Cake was also preparing to go to the supermarket to buy things. Fortunately, the auntie was quick-witted and reacted in time. She hurried out and pulled Cake away. Knowing the reason, Cake was both jealous and envious. She demanded that Cream not meet Tull again, otherwise, she would not go to work in her sister's place. Cream had to agree with her sister not to meet Tull again. Therefore, when Tull invited Cream to a buffet again, Cream made an excuse and hurriedly hung up. After that, Cake began the process of pursuing Tull. She first took the initiative to go with Tull to see an art exhibition, and then invited him to dinner. But Tull refused her invitation. This scene was seen by Pete. Recognizing that Cake liked Tull, Pete, who had always competed with Tull, also wanted to pursue Cake. so he took the initiative to invite Cake to dinner. Cake was rejected, but this made Pete even more interested. That's more fun. The next day, Cake, under the guidance of her sister, introduced everyone to the spring-summer collection her sister designed for the company. But then she was shocked to discover that this design draft had been announced by Cindy before. Realizing that Cindy had stolen the company's works and ideas, Tull led everyone to find Cindy to demand justice. But he found that Cindy also provided the original of the design draft. She also loudly said that if there was no solid evidence, she would sue Tull for defamation. Tull had to prove who designed the work first. However, they could not provide this evidence, and could only watch themselves make wedding clothes for Cindy. Wazin, who stole the design, also received a kickback from Cindy. Cream swallowed her anger, and had to continue trying. She decided to design a work with an idea better than a jigsaw puzzle. Next, the F Fashion Group where Pete worked organized a fashion show. He announced that he would choose a fashion brand to merge into the group, leading this fashion company to the world stage. Pete first communicated with Cindy, expressing great admiration for her company's jigsaw design collection, while deliberately putting pressure on Tull. He also took the opportunity to insult and ridicule him for not being able to come up with any significant designs. Seeing this scene, Cake came to defend Tull, criticizing Pete for not respecting future partners because of his status. Afterwards, under Pete's enthusiastic invitation, Cake agreed to go to a bar to eat, drink and have fun. That night, she let loose and danced a hot, seductive dance. But Cake suddenly encountered a thug who came to harass her. Fortunately, Pete came to her rescue to thank him for his help. This time Cake was generous and enthusiastically danced a seductive dance with him. But then what Cake didn't expect was that Pete confessed his love for her, wanting to pursue her as his girlfriend. But at this time, Cake had feelings for Tull, so she cleverly rejected Pete. But when Cake returned home, she learned from her aunt that Cream was eating a buffet with Tull again. It turned out that Tull was in a bad mood, because the design work was stolen by Cindy, so he invited Cream to have a buffet to relieve stress. Originally, Cream intended to refuse, but hearing that he was in a bad mood, she accepted the invitation to eat with him and comforted him. This made Cake, who also liked Tull, extremely jealous. In anger, Cake told her sister about her feelings for Tull. Knowing that her sister still liked Tull, Cake made an agreement with her sister to compete fairly for Tull. Cake asked her sister to go to Chiang Mai to lose weight, and then come back to work. They decided to give Tull the right to choose. Okay, within 3 months, you must be as thin as me. By that time, if I still can't make Tull like me, I will have to withdraw. If you are so confident, then accept my challenge, okay? If when you come back, you and Tull are not yet lovers, I will give way to you. Deal. Since the two sisters made an agreement to compete fairly to pursue Tull, Cake immediately began to wholeheartedly pursue Tull. Cake enthusiastically invited Tull to a buffet, but he made an excuse to refuse. This scene was seen by Mintra, who then came to mock Cake, criticizing Cake for not being promoted to director based on her strength. This series of blows made Cake extremely disappointed, and she couldn't help but go drinking to relieve her sorrows. Pete, who liked her, came over to talk to her again. This time, Cake bluntly rejected him, saying that although he was excellent, he was still not good enough. She liked the type of man who was handsome and had everything. Pete also greatly admired Cake's frankness. Later, under the influence of alcohol, the two had a relationship. Pete even thought he had won Cake over. The next day, he got up early, made a thoughtful breakfast, brought it for Cake to enjoy, and took some beautiful photos of her as a souvenir. But Cake's next words sent his heart plummeting. She quickly brushed off her relationship with him, and even asked him to pull some strings to get Dreamer's designs into their group's catalog. Cake had exhausted all her resources to help Tull. In another development, Cream also arrived at the weight loss facility. After consulting with the doctor there, the doctor designed a perfect plan just for her. While trying to lose weight, Cream was also trying to design a new piece, but her new design didn't please Tull. Cream had to try harder with her design and heartlessly ignored Tull's calls. As for Tull, unable to contact Cream, he went near her house to find her and accidentally ran into her aunt. Knowing that he was looking for Cream, the aunt hurriedly asked Cake for help. Under Cake's guidance, she told Tull according to Cake's wishes that Joss had left and moved to Chiang Mai, and that she was deliberately avoiding him. This stopped Tull from continuing to search for Cream. On the other hand, Wazin went to the design department to find out the situation, but this time he gained nothing and couldn't get any information about the new piece. As it turned out, having learned from the previous design theft, Tull decided that this time the design must be kept secret, and the design would only be revealed on launch day. However, in reality, Cream's final design idea was still nowhere. Mintra, seeing that Cake had not submitted the design, called Tull to see her design. Although her work was not up to par, Mintra put pressure on Cake. Cake anxiously urged her sister to submit her work quickly, and Cream began to stay up all night to brainstorm ideas. She happened to come across an old post on her social media, which was a handkerchief with a crane design that her mother gave her. The crane motif gave her design inspiration, and very quickly, her latest work was born. Through her sister, she introduced that the idea came from beautiful memories in the past. She introduced to everyone that cranes are auspicious animals, meaning good luck, goodness, and longevity. The selling point they promoted was the detail technique. Competitors could steal their ideas, but they absolutely could not steal their technique. Although the cost would be higher, she believed that this collection could definitely beat the opponent's design. This creative design made Tull extremely satisfied. Next, Cake began to implement this design. Just as she was discussing work with her sister on the phone, she accidentally dropped her headset on the ground. At this moment, Tull happened to pick up the headset, and he heard Joss's voice. Just as Tull was extremely confused, Cake hurriedly snatched back the headset and made an excuse to have something to discuss with him. Later, Tull received a gift, a fountain pen from Cake. She said that in the near future, he could use this pen to sign a contract with the F Group. But no one expected that Cake, while pursuing Tull, would secretly become good friends with Pete and inquire about what type of woman Tull liked. Cake still wanted to stick to her original intention of pursuing Tull. At the same time, Cream also accelerated her weight loss progress because her friend, the secretary, saw Cake giving Tull a fountain pen and told her about it. Cream, wanting to return to pursue Tull soon, intensified her weight loss. Motivation from love allowed her to overcome unimaginable difficulties. She strictly followed the training plan, combined with medication and diet management. The effort finally paid off. Cream finally achieved her wish, and even reached her goal ahead of schedule. The doctor told her that she could rest at the facility for a week, and then return to Bangkok. Just as she was eagerly looking forward to seeing her sister, and the man she loved again soon, she received bad news that night. A sudden car accident left her sister's life hanging in the balance. After Cake came up with the new design idea, Cindy didn't have any good work, which made her super stressed. She blamed Wazin for not helping her finish the job, and refused to pay him. Wazin had been planning for this, and secretly set up a camera to record evidence of Cindy's crimes. Then, he copied the video onto a USB drive, intending to use it to control her. But when the assistant was signing for documents, she accidentally grabbed the USB drive and took it away. She bumped into Cake walking by, and Cake's documents fell all over the ground. Cake thought the USB drive on the ground was hers, so she picked it up and tried to copy her documents onto it. But then Cake realized she had picked up the wrong USB drive. Curious, Cake watched the video and discovered that it contained evidence of Wazin and Cindy's crimes. At the same time, Wazin noticed that the USB drive on the desk had disappeared. After asking the assistant, he found out that Cake had taken it. He rushed to find Cake to get back the evidence, but he happened to see her leaving the company in a hurry. The two looked at each other and understood each other's intentions. Cake was scared and rushed out. She called Tull but couldn't get through, so she called Cream. But as soon as Cake said she got Wazin's USB drive, her phone died. Helpless, Cake had to drive away. Wazin told his buddies to chase after Cake and snatch back the USB drive. Noticing a motorcycle following her closely, Cake panicked and hid the USB drive inside a hug pillow. But right after that, Wazin's buddies crashed into her car, causing an accident, and the car burst into flames. Because villagers came to help, the bad guys had to leave. They thought the USB drive must have been burned in the fire. When Cream received news that Cake had been in an accident, she quickly packed her luggage and rushed back to the hospital in Bangkok to see her sister. Her aunt told her that Cake's condition was very serious, and they could only hope for a miracle. Seeing the hug pillow she gave her sister, Cream's eyes turned red, and she hugged her aunt sobbing. After hearing about the accident, Tull told his secretary that he wanted to visit the hospital. The secretary quickly reported this to Cream. If Tull knew that Cake was in a coma in the hospital, their previous plan would fail, and they would not be able to switch identities. After thinking about it, Cream decided to switch identities with her sister right now. She asked her aunt and secretary to help. So the secretary led Tull to Cream's hospital room. lying that Cake had been transferred from the ICU to a regular room. At this time, Wazin also came to the hospital to check things out. Both of them were led to the regular hospital room by the secretary. Cream lay on the bed pretending to be a patient. She politely greeted everyone and said that she had lost some of her memory. Then her aunt, wearing a mask, pretended to be a doctor and told everyone that Cake had suffered a severe head injury in the car accident. She couldn't remember part of her past, but otherwise, there was nothing to worry about, and she could be discharged in 2 or 3 days. Just like that, the three of them worked together to trick Tull and Wazin. Cream decided to help Tull sign the cooperation agreement with the F group first, and then find an opportunity to confess the truth to him. On the other hand, Pete, returning from a business trip, wanted to contact Cake, but saw that she wasn't responding to his messages. Soon after, Cream was discharged from the hospital and prepared to go back to work. But Wazin and Mintra were uneasy about handing over work to her, worried that Cream wouldn't be clear-headed because of the accident. But very soon after, they were proven wrong because Cream appeared in high spirits and solemnly told everyone that although she had lost some of her memory, she remembered everything clearly about her work. She realized how Mintra had been making things difficult for her before. And then Wazin called her in to ask questions, checking her out. Seeing that Cream really didn't remember anything about the USB drive, he temporarily stopped being suspicious. As for Pete, he was totally confused. Cake was just recently all over him, and they had even gotten intimate. He and Cake had a great time together, and Cake often hung out and partied with him at night. Why did her attitude change 180 degrees after just one business trip? He noticed that Cake wasn't answering his phone or responding to his messages, and Pete thought he had been dumped. Little did he know that the goddess in his heart had been in a car accident and was still lying unconscious in a hospital bed. The person he met after the business trip, the pretty woman who was polite and respectful, the pretty woman who said she had lost some of her memory due to the accident, wasn't his goddess but her twin sister. So Cream had returned to work at Dreamer, but some of Cream's old habits still revealed many flaws. For example, Cream drank coffee without sugar, and no matter what the thermostat was set to, she was sweating like crazy. And when it came to work, she didn't need to think before answering Tull like before. But she reacted quickly and spoke fluently. But these strange behaviors didn't make Tull suspicious. On the contrary, he admired the current Cream very much, and even kindly wiped the sweat from her forehead. Cream was also secretly happy that she hadn't been exposed as a fake. But Pete's next appearance made Cream not know how to deal with it. She only remembered her sister telling her that Pete was the right-hand man of the boss of the F group, and he was also the one who decided whether her designs could join the group and go out into the world. But he and Tull didn't get along. They had been enemies since they were kids. Cream did what she was told. She politely greeted him and explained that she had forgotten part of her memory due to the car accident. Hearing Pete anxiously ask if she still remembered anything between them, Cream could only stammer, appearing very vague. Under Pete's pleading and demands, Cream had to give him her new phone number. Then, she hurriedly found an excuse to leave. Seeing Pete, Tull also showed his displeasure. He rudely chased Pete away and then told Cream to be careful of him, saying that in college, he was a notorious player, and all the female friends around him had been with Pete. This action also made Cream feel confused. She went to the hospital to visit her sister again. She hoped her sister would wake up soon and tell her who she liked. Suddenly, Cream noticed her sister's hand move. This meant that her sister could hear what she was saying. She quickly informed the doctor. After checking, the doctor told Cream that this was a sign that her sister's condition was improving, which also meant that she would definitely wake up in the near future. This also made Cream breathe a sigh of relief. Next, Cream began to devote herself wholeheartedly to work. She matched clothes, designed for the new collection, carefully checked every detail in the work, and was meticulous down to the necklace accessories. Although her views were completely different from Mintra's, Cream didn't embarrass her in front of everyone, but spoke to her privately in a gentle way. Cream's behavior was completely different from her previous style. The colleagues found it hard to believe, but everyone thought the accident had changed her. Next, Cream talked to the models, emphasizing that when performing, they had to show a smile in order to reveal the theme of this design. Seeing Cream's serious work, Tull revealed a very admiring look. He felt that Cream's fashion philosophy was exactly like his mother's. To help Cream complete her task better, he also asked her to try on the new model, so that he could personally review it. When he saw Cream wearing the dress and looking gentle and attractive, Tull almost stared in amazement. frozen for a long time. But he quickly came closer to help her adjust her hair and praised her design for being great. Just as they were talking, suddenly the sound technician messed up and a piercing noise blasted from the speakers. Tull quickly covered her ears, and this sudden concern made Cream's heart race. As night fell, the launch of Dreamer Company's new product was about to begin. Cream and the models were preparing backstage. However, at this time, everyone was unaware that Tull's competitor, Cindy, had sent Wazin to find a way to sabotage the company's new product launch. The show began, and everything was going smoothly. The models took the stage one by one. All the outfits had unique crane motifs, but each had its own distinct style. Everyone applauded like thunder. But when the star piece was about to be unveiled, Wazin had the bad guys ruin the stage's electrical system, and it couldn't be restored in a short amount of time. This meant that the event had to be cancelled, but Cream remained calm. She quickly came up with a way to keep the event going. She asked everyone present to turn on their phone flashlights to help illuminate the stage. Surprisingly, Cream's star dress sparkled under the flashlight. This, on the contrary, pushed the event to a climax. As a result, Dreamer Company successfully completed the event. Pete, sitting in the audience, was amazed by Cream's on-the-spot improvisation, then came over to talk to her, and even invited her to hang out. But Cream refused his invitation. Pete hurriedly chased after her to ask why. Pete didn't expect that he would finally meet a rival in love. At first, he discovered that Cake was like him, liked to tease life, was a hedonist, and took pleasure as a motto in life. He was very sure that this girl was the same type of person as him, so he hoped to develop a relationship with her. However, Cake didn't want to move into a serious relationship with him. But now, when Pete saw Cream handling the crisis intelligently at the fashion show, using her strength to save the whole show, helping her competitors out of trouble, realizing that the girl was both talented and beautiful, Pete was completely infatuated with her this time. So he put aside his pride to confess his love to her again. But Pete didn't expect that the person standing in front of him at this time was not his goddess, but her twin sister, Cream. Facing this sudden confession, Cream was so scared that she didn't know what to do. She couldn't tell him the truth right now, and in a moment of urgency, she had to run away. Pete was very heartbroken. He had tasted the flavor of being rejected. Although Dreamer Company's fashion show was very successful, Cream and her designs became the new focus of the fashion world. Major media outlets competed to report on her creative designs, and the company's sales also achieved good results. Initially, the senior management of the F Group intended to bring Dreamer Company's brand into their system, but Pete didn't want things to be that easy. He worried that he wouldn't have a good reason to pursue his goddess later. So he made things difficult, suggesting adding another challenge for Cindy and Tull's company, requiring them to consider more carefully before making a decision. Tull didn't know about this yet, and was leading the staff to a bar to celebrate. Colleagues raised their glasses to congratulate Cream, because her sister was the queen of the bar and had a very good alcohol tolerance. Cream, so as not to arouse suspicion, didn't refuse anyone who offered her a drink, drinking one glass after another. Unaccustomed to drinking alcohol, she quickly became drunk and ran into the bathroom to vomit. Right then, Cream ran into Mintra, who was super jealous and causing trouble. As a result, Cream accidentally threw up all over Mintra. Mintra's scream attracted Tull. Seeing Cream totally wasted, he decided to drive her home. Cream, still half conscious, blurted out her address. When they got to the house, Tull opened the door and walked in, and Cream, drunk as a skunk, got all googly-eyed and stared at him. Tull didn't shy away, and even enjoyed the cozy moment. Then he helped Cream inside, but the house was pitch black, and Cream accidentally bumped into the furniture. The sharp pain snapped Cream back to reality. Seeing Tull in her house, Cream turned pale with fear, because the walls were covered in pictures of her and her sister together. Plus, her sister was resting in the room. Turns out Cake's condition, though she hadn't woken up after treatment, had improved a lot. Cream had just brought her home from the hospital a few days ago. Thinking of this, Cream quickly stopped Tull from turning on the lights and dragged him outside. But then her aunt suddenly appeared, making the situation even more chaotic. Since Tull clearly remembered this was Rose's aunt, Cream quickly lied that her aunt was helping her around the house. Tull didn't suspect a thing, and even offered to take her aunt home. The aunt just pointed to a house on the side of the road, and told Tull to leave quickly. The aunt came home very late that night. She advised Cream not to lie to Tull anymore. But Cream didn't want to lose her job because she needed money to treat her sister, and also wanted to help Tull sign the contract with the F Group successfully. Unexpectedly, Pete sent flowers to confess his love to Cream and sincerely invited her to dinner to continue drinking. Turns out Pete wasn't giving up. He planned to keep trying to win Cream over, hoping to touch his goddess's heart again, using the excuse of congratulating her on the successful fashion show to express his feelings. Then he came to announce that now only Dreamer Company and Cindy's company were competing, and the group had eliminated other fashion companies. Based on the principle of caution and seriousness, headquarters decided to conduct another evaluation for the two companies. They wanted to know who had more potential and who would push Thai fashion further on the international stage, asking them to compete in designing costumes that fit a symbolic concept, seeing which company was superior in sales and reputation. A month later, they would decide who the winner was. Then Tull called Cream to relay the F group's request, asking Cream to put effort into designing a piece that fit the concept. Due to the attempted sabotage of the last fashion show, they had confirmed that there was a traitor inside, but it was still unclear who it was. Therefore, they had to keep the design work absolutely secret. On Cindy's side, she also received the design request from the F group, but she wasn't confident enough to beat Dreamer Company. So Wazin continued to steal Cream's design information. Driven by money, Wazin had his subordinates closely monitor Cream's every move. Seeing that designer Mintra wasn't valued in the company, Wazin also wanted to win her over to his side to deal with Cream together. It turned out that Cream decided to use traditional Thai woven fabrics for her designs. Mintra opposed this, but Tull didn't support Mintra and publicly defended Cream. Although Mintra spoke to Tull privately, it still made her very hurt that her boss didn't see her value. Disappointed, Mintra's hostility towards Cream grew stronger. Plus, with Wazin holding her weaknesses and his promise of the design director position, Mintra agreed to become his ally, starting to do things that betrayed the company. Meanwhile, Cream, who was under pressure at work, unconsciously ran to an all-you-can-eat barbecue restaurant, wanting to have a feast to relieve the stress. Unexpectedly, she ran into Tull there too, so they ended up sharing a table at the buffet again. Tull was surprised to find that Cream arranged the dipping sauce plates exactly like Rose used to. He couldn't help but mention it, but Cream quickly changed the subject to her design work. Since Cream was looking for design inspiration, Tull wanted to take her to see his mother's workshop, hoping it could help her. On the way, they noticed a motorcyclist who had been following them the whole way. Soon after, Tull took Cream to his mother's old house, visiting the place where his mother used to work. Cream saw a photo of Cindy and Tull's mother together, and learned that they had founded Dreamer together, but had gone their separate ways due to differences in values. Cindy left to start her own fashion company. Cream also saw Tull's college photos and his mother's valuable design notebook. Tull talked about his painful past. His mother always devoted herself to building her career, but his father always used business trips as an excuse to go out. Until one day, his mother didn't feel well and went to the hospital for an exam, where she was diagnosed with cancer. But his father was indifferent and didn't care about his mother. Feeling that something was wrong, he followed his father and found out that his father had been lying. His father often went out not to work, but to live with another woman. Even on the day his mother passed away, his father didn't come home. He exposed his father's lies on the spot. At this point, Cream understood why Tull hated liars and cheaters so much. This made her feel more and more guilty, because she was the one who was lying to him. After hearing about Tull's family, Cream also noticed a special woven fabric in the notebook and expressed her desire to take the notebook home to study. But when she closed the book, dust from the book accidentally flew into Tull's eyes. She hurried closer to blow the dust out of his eyes. In such a close moment, the air was filled with romantic ambiguity. They looked at each other for a long time, and the seeds of love were quietly sprouting. Suddenly, a phone call interrupted their moment. It turned out that Pete had suddenly come there. He invited Cream to dinner again. It turned out that Pete had brought flowers to visit Cream at the company. He learned Cream's address from Mintra and hurried over to find her. This action made Tull quite unhappy, blaming Pete for hindering his employees' work. Under Tull's protection, Cream quickly took a taxi and ran away. Seeing Tull stop him from chasing after her, Pete angrily blamed Tull for being a third wheel, and bluntly said that he and Cream used to date. They were just having a little fight now, and he believed that they would go back to how they were before soon. This made Tull very surprised because Cream had said that she and Pete weren't close. On the other hand, Cream returned home and couldn't help but complain to her sister. She didn't understand what her sister had done to make Pete stalk her so crazy. She hoped her sister would wake up soon to solve this problem. That day, before going on a business trip, Cream prepared to go and learn about the fabric, but she found that the motorcyclist was following her again. Just then, Tull called to ask about her situation. Knowing that the motorcyclist was following her again, Tull couldn't help but worry. But Cream quickly said she had found a way, and hung up quickly. It turned out that when she arrived, after parking the car, Cream found 2 security guards, and wanted them to chase the bad guy away. Unexpectedly, this bad guy had extraordinary fighting power, knocking out the 2 guards on the spot. At this time, Cream's old illness flared up again, and she became so nervous that she couldn't breathe. Just as Cream was in danger, Pete appeared and rescued the damsel in distress. He carried the unconscious Cream straight to his house. Seeing Tull calling Cream again, Pete answered the phone, told Tull not to care about Cream anymore, and made it clear that it was his responsibility to take care of Cream because he was her boyfriend. After speaking, Pete sent a photo of the beauty sleeping to assert his ownership. It was at this point that Tull realized his feelings for Cream had surged like ocean waves. On the other side, when Cream woke up, knowing that Pete had saved her, she sincerely expressed her gratitude. But being in the same room with him made her extremely nervous. "I love you." Cream finally got what she wanted. She won Tull's love. The guy she'd secretly loved for years finally told her how he felt today. Cream happily answered him with a smile. They looked at each other lovingly for a long time. Something called love had taken root, and was growing in their hearts. However, Cream didn't know that her older sister, who had been in a coma for many days, had also woken up. The thing is, early in the morning Cream, along with Tull and some co-workers, went to northern Thailand to check out traditional woven fabrics. They picked out a certain weaving technique. After contacting the fabric boss there, Cream was getting ready to finish the design patterns before giving them to the fabric factory to produce. However, nobody knew that Mintra had betrayed the company. She reported all the information here to Washington. Suddenly, Cream got a call from Pete. It turned out that Pete had reported to the police for Cream before, and he was now telling Cream about the investigation situation. But right at that moment, Cream suddenly had an asthma attack and had to quickly hang up. Tull quickly helped Cream sit down to rest. In Cream's bag, Tull found some diet pills. This made him start to feel suspicious. Then, after Cream felt better, he directly asked her about the weight loss product. This time, Cream lied and said that her friend used it, and it worked well, and she might try it too. After clearing up the first doubt in his heart, Tull took out the photo of Sleeping Beauty that Pete sent him yesterday, asking if Cream and Pete were lovers. Cream quickly denied everything, explaining that yesterday she was attacked by a bad guy, and Pete saved her when she fainted and took her home to rest. This immediately reassured Tull, and he told Cream that next time she had trouble, she should contact him first. Next, they continued to survey different fabric patterns, hoping to learn from them and use them as inspiration. Sure enough, Cream discovered a woven pattern that symbolized love. After everyone left, Tull seized the opportunity to confess his feelings to Cream. Although Cream didn't give him an answer, her smile gave him reassurance. "I just want to be honest with you, to let you know that I really like you, Cream." Tull will let things happen naturally, he won't rush her for an answer. Not long after, Cream also received a call from her aunt, saying that her older sister had woken up, but she was dazed and not communicating with anyone, and needed to be taken to the hospital for a checkup. Cream immediately told her aunt that she would go home, to go to the hospital together. When she turned around, she happened to see Tull. Hearing the last half of the sentence, Tull immediately asked who was sick, and if she needed any help. Cream quickly lied and said it was a relative and declined his kindness, then hurried home. But as soon as they got off the plane, they met Pete, who had come to pick up Cream. But at this time, Cream was in a hurry to see her sister. She avoided Pete and hurried away. "You're lying, Cream doesn't have any feelings for you. But I can still feel it from that time until now." At this time, Cream had arrived home, and happened to see the ambulance taking her sister to the hospital. Just as everyone was carrying her sister into the ambulance, Pete, who was following Cream, also arrived at the scene. In order not to let Pete discover their deception, Cream quickly found a way to stall Pete. The aunt also found a scarf to cover her sister's face, which prevented the secret from being exposed. Cream had to tell her aunt to take her sister to the hospital first, while she went with Pete to the police station to find out the progress of the investigation. It turned out that the police had an important lead. Although they didn't find the person who attacked Cream, they discovered a special tattoo on the back of that attacker's hand. After seeing Pete off, Cream went to the hospital to find out about her sister's condition. The doctor said her sister needed more time to recover. With careful care, she would recover as before. She thought that if her sister hadn't gone to work in her place, she wouldn't have had the car accident. She hoped her sister would recover soon. Next, Cream began designing her patterns and decided to send the patterns to the weaving mill for production. Cream's work went quite smoothly, but nobody knew that Mintra was secretly reporting all related information to the competitor, Sydney. Just when Cream thought everything was going according to plan, Cream made a mistake that day. A staff member discovered that Cream's signature was completely different from before. Faced with the colleague's question, Cream had to lie and say it was caused by the car accident. The staff member didn't suspect anything. Hearing their conversation, Mintra quickly followed to see the signature. This also caused Mintra an inexplicable suspicion. She increasingly felt that the Cream after the car accident and the Cream before were two completely different people. But without evidence, she didn't dare say much. At the same time, Tull's company was preparing to open a branch in Chiang Mai. He noticed a weight loss center in a photo. The weight loss product in Cream's bag was issued by that center. Tull asked Cream when she had gone to Chiang Mai for weight loss. Cream had to lie again, saying a friend introduced it, and she ordered these products online. On the other hand, Pete, since falling into unrequited love, was drinking away his sorrows in a bar, feeling very lonely. He was no longer interested in flirting with other women. Soon after, he discovered the attacker with a triangle tattoo on the back of his hand. Although he chased after and wrestled with him, after a fierce fight between the two, Pete lost. He watched helplessly as the attacker escaped right in front of his eyes. Pete asked the boss for the surveillance video, but to no avail, because the boss had been bribed by Washington. Tormented by the pain of unrequited love, Pete finally had a chance to find Cream this time, wanting to tell her about his discovery of the attacker. But little did he know that Cream was currently with her sister, doing physical therapy. Hearing that Pete, who admired her sister, had come to visit, Cream had to go outside to meet him. Seeing Pete's injured arm, caused by helping her chase after the attacker who attacked her, Cream couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Although Pete asked to come inside to talk, considering that her sister was upstairs recovering, Cream had to go with Pete to a cafe near her house to talk. Pete told Cream that he met the attacker at the bar, but he suspected the person who attacked her was a competitor of Dreamer's company, because on the day the electrical system of the fashion show was sabotaged, he also met that person at the scene and reminded Cream to be careful and take precautions. But at this time, Cream didn't know that Tull, because of work matters, had also come outside her house. The person who greeted Tull was the nurse who was taking care of her sister. At this time, the sister inside the house saw the body pillow next to her. She remembered the USB that she hid in the pillow when the car accident happened, and wanted to take the USB out of the body pillow. Unexpectedly, she knocked over the glass of water on the table and fell. The nurse heard the sound of glass breaking, and she quickly ran back to the room to check the situation. Tull also followed into the house. Just as he was about to go upstairs, he found out the secret. Luckily, Cream came home in time and stopped him. Turns out that after finishing the main business with Pete, Cream hurried home, and Pete even thoughtfully gave her a ride to and from her place. When Tull saw his rival appear at Cream's house again, he couldn't help but become jealous again. They exchanged words and started arguing. Pete criticized Tull for putting Cream in danger, because Pete was certain that the person who attacked Cream did it for business reasons. Seeing her two friends arguing back and forth endlessly, Cream quickly stepped in to mediate and ordered them both to leave. After kicking out the two handsome guys, Cream hurried upstairs to check on her sister. At this time, Cake still couldn't open her mouth to speak. Everyone thought that Cake was thirsty and wanted to get a drink herself, so she fell, not realizing Cake's true intention. Seeing the body pillow on the floor was dirty, Cream washed the body pillow again. After drying it, she put it back in the closet, unaware that this body pillow was hiding important evidence. Next, Cream finalized the final fabric design. She gave it to Tull to look over and confirm, then sent the design to the fabric factory for production. On the other hand, Cindy couldn't come up with a satisfactory design, which made her furious. Cream's work was progressing very smoothly. Seeing the person she loved working so hard, Tull thoughtfully brought her a sugar-free coffee. But at this moment an accident occurred. It turned out that the workers at the fabric factory had an accident, and they wouldn't be able to deliver the goods on time. So Cream and Tull went to the factory to coordinate the work. But both of them didn't know that a bad guy had been following them the whole way, and also went to the factory to survey and secretly photographed the fabric they were producing. As a result, the picture of this fabric was immediately sent to Cindy. Seeing such a beautiful pattern, Cindy felt a deep crisis because she didn't have any fabric that could compare. Mintra came up with a bad idea. She suggested finding a way to destroy the fabric when it was close to the competition, so they couldn't find a replacement fabric in a short time. By then, Dreamer would definitely lose. Very quickly, Cream received the traditional woven fabric sent by the factory. Everyone who saw this fabric with exquisite patterns confirmed that they would definitely win the costume competition this time. Next, Cream brought this fabric to the storage room for safekeeping. She also reported her work progress to her sister. But Cream saw that her sister seemed to want to say something to her. So Cream took out a pen and signaled her sister to write it down. Cake tried her best to draw something that looked like half a circle. In fact, Cake wanted to draw that body pillow, wanting her sister to check inside. Just as they were communicating, Cream received news that the fabric storage room had caught fire. She immediately left her sister and ran to the fashion company. It turned out that the bad guy, under the protection of Mintra, sneaked into the fabric storage room to set a fire, burning the fabric they were going to use to participate in the competition. Arriving at the company, Cream noticed a person acting suspiciously. She quickly told Tull about this. Tull immediately chased after him. The two of them had a fierce fight. In the chaos, the bad guy's phone fell to the ground. Cream wanted to grab the attacker's phone, but was shocked to discover that this person had the triangle tattoo on the back of his hand. Because the bad guy was a well-trained assassin, he finally escaped from their sight. At this moment, Cream finally believed Pete's words. The person who attacked her was indeed sent by a business competitor. She told Tull that the attacker had skillfully avoided the cameras, setting fire to their competition fabric. Only the cooperation of an insider could do that. Seeing that in the company only Mintra didn't like her, Cream began to suspect that Mintra was the traitor. But now they needed to find evidence before they could take action. Next, Tull held an emergency meeting to discuss countermeasures. Traditional fabrics couldn't be produced in a short time. Everyone was at a loss and didn't know how to solve the crisis. But that day Mintra received a call from Cindy. It turned out that Cindy intended to abandon Wazin, preparing to cooperate directly with Mintra, promising to pay all the fees to her alone. But when Mintra turned around, she discovered that Wazin was eavesdropping. Wazin was dissatisfied that Cindy and Mintra wanted to kick him to the curb, abandoning the intermediary who introduced him. But at this time he had no other choice. Next, Mintra went out to get ready to meet Cindy, but she didn't know that Tull and Cream were suspicious and secretly following her. Just as Mintra was about to go into the store to meet Cindy, she received a reminder call from Wazin, saying that she was being followed by Tull and Cream. So Mintra changed her plans and went window shopping at a clothing store. Seeing this, Tull realized that Mintra probably knew she was being followed, so they had to give up and go back to the office. At this time, Wazin showed up and negotiated with Mintra. It was his reminder that kept Mintra from being exposed, so he demanded that Cindy's fee be split equally between the two of them. Mintra realized she couldn't escape Wazin either. Not long after, Cream received a call from a famous fabric factory, inviting her to see a special type of fabric that they had. After Cream talked with the person in charge, she found out that Pete had been secretly helping her. But Cream turned down Pete's help because she thought it wasn't fair to Cindy's company, and she didn't want to owe anyone favors. You've changed so much. Not only do you not remember anything, but the way you think has changed too. It's like you're a completely different person. Are you still the Cream I used to know? Alright, I just wanted to help. Because of the arson, Dreamer's company was in a very disadvantageous position. Cream's behavior made Pete feel very strange, and thinking about her recent unusual behavior, he felt more and more uneasy. Not only had she completely forgotten their relationship, but her way of thinking and principles were also completely different from before. So, he went to the apartment Cake used to live in to ask about her recent situation. Auntie, do you remember me? I came to visit my friend, but I didn't see her. She hasn't been back to her room in months. In a chance encounter, Pete accidentally saw Cream's slender, white waist. This moment stunned Pete, and he couldn't come back to his senses for a long time, because he remembered very clearly that the waist of the goddess in his heart had a blue birthmark. Cake used to be very proud of it, but now it had magically disappeared. It was only at this moment that Pete realized that the beauty who looked exactly like the goddess in his heart and the goddess in his heart were two completely different people. Turns out that today was finally the day that the F group held the competition. The chairman of the group, and his secretary arrived at the competition venue. The secretary introduced the famous judges, the audience at the scene, and the big figures in the fashion world to the chairman, and they exchanged polite greetings with each other. However, at this time, Cream was too nervous, so she was pacing back and forth to try to relieve the pressure. Pete saw this scene and suggested using the back-to-back method like they used to help her build confidence and reduce pressure. But Cream wasn't her sister Cake and didn't know anything about the back-to-back method. Cream looked very confused at this moment. Seeing this, Pete thought she had forgotten again, so he left helplessly. After that, everyone went to the competition venue to prepare for their work. Everyone discovered that Cindy had invited the world's top female designer. This female designer had won many major awards in the fashion world, so Cindy looked very proud, confident that she would win. The staff of Dreamer's company also felt a deep pressure. Seeing this scene, Dream also tried to comfort everyone. Everyone has tried their best in the past 2 or 3 months. No matter what the result is, there is nothing to be ashamed of. Mintra also pretended to comfort everyone, just relax. Next, the fashion design competition officially began. First to appear was the design work of Size Company. All that was seen was a model wearing a solid black dress. Although the dress was simple, it was embellished with lovely tassels. The model walked with graceful steps, appearing impressively, with confident steps, the skirt flying highlighting the gentleness, but also fully demonstrating the elegant and intelligent temperament of women. It must be said that this was a high-end fashion design. Cindy looked very proud, and she led everyone in applauding and praising this work. Next, the female designer also came up to introduce her design ideas. The judges also very much appreciated and highly praised the work of Size Company. Just when she thought she was sure to win this time, she saw the work of Dreamer's company. She immediately felt a deep sense of danger, because Dreamer's outfit used the traditional woven fabric of Thailand, and this was more in line with the theme requirements of this competition. All that was seen was a model with her hands on her hips, walking gracefully. She used nonverbal language to move people's hearts, bringing an enjoyment of beauty and an empathy of emotions. Her elegant steps and firm eyes made the outfit shine with a unique aura. Clearly, this design work by Dreamer's company was more eye-catching. It turned out that Cream had understood a principle very early on. If she wanted to win the competition, she had to use that extremely difficult to weave traditional Thai fabric. So she secretly designed another set of weaving patterns and contacted the factory boss, requesting that he produce it secretly. Then, she discussed it with the design colleagues in the company, and this also had to be kept secret from Mintra. All the work was completed at their private homes, and finally, they gathered at the boss's house to assemble and complete the work. That's how this traditional woven dress came to be. Cream went on stage to introduce her design ideas, wanting to introduce traditional Thai woven fabric to the world. She also said that handmade weaving was both environmentally friendly and could promote local economic development. As soon as she finished speaking, she received thunderous applause. The chairman of the F group finally expressed his thoughts. He announced that both works were excellent, and eliminating either side would be an extremely painful and embarrassing thing for him. But finally, after the judges discussed and decided together, Peter announced that the winner of the competition was Dreamer's company. Cream Tull and their colleagues were immediately overjoyed. People often say that one person cries while another laughs. Cindy had spent so much effort trying to stop them, but to no avail, which made her furious. Soon after, Tull and the F group signed a cooperation agreement. The aunt also shared this good news with Cake. When she saw Weizen's face in the video, she remembered that her car accident was entirely caused by him. So she again took out a pen and drew many pictures of body pillows. Because the aunt couldn't speak and the aunt couldn't understand her, she could only worry until she shed tears. After the two companies signed a cooperation agreement, Peter hurried to hand over the work to Tull, requesting them to rush to design the autumn and winter collection. After completing the draft, they had to quickly submit it to the group company for review. Then, he went to visit Cream again, and accidentally discovered that Cream's waist did not have a birthmark, but the waist of his goddess clearly had a birthmark. At this time, Peter began to suspect whether Cream had a twin sister. He asked Cream if she had a sister named Cake. It turned out that earlier, Cream and the aunt took Cake for a walk outdoors, but suddenly Cake heard the sound of a child's bicycle brakes, which reminded her of the scene of the car accident, and she became agitated. Cake immediately screamed loudly, and the aunt kept calling her sister's name. Coincidentally, Cream was on the phone with Peter at this time, And Peter also heard the name Cake on the phone. He guessed that Cake was Cream's injured relative. Now, seeing the birthmark thing, he suspected that Cream had a twin sister. Cream panicked and quickly found an excuse to leave, but she encountered a bad guy who came to attack her. But luckily, Tull arrived in time as a hero to save the beauty. Then, they went to the police station together to report the case. Because he was worried about Cream's safety, Tull insisted on Cream staying at his house, but then Cream revealed a flaw. It turned out that Tull and Cream were eating hot pot together, and Cream accidentally said a classic saying of Tull's mother. But Tull clearly remembered that he only said this to Joss. So how did Cream know about this? Although Cream lied and said that she read it in a book, this also made Tull suspicious. On the other hand, Pete asked his police friend to help him investigate the household registration information, but the friend refused for privacy reasons and said that the birthmark could be due to a woman who loves beauty having surgery to remove it. But Pete didn't think so. To verify his speculation, he went to Cake's previous apartment to inquire again and learned from the cleaning lady that his goddess hadn't been back to her room in months. And his goddess's name was Cake, not Cream. He also found a lot of uncollected letters in Cake's apartment mailbox, and it was from here that he found Cake's work address. Having found the evidence, he went outside Cream's house again, asking Cream to come out and confront him. But what they didn't know was that Mintra was watching them outside at this time. It turned out that after the competition ended, Tull directly told Mintra that he suspected the fire was caused by her, and asked her to testify that Cindy had instructed her to do so. Although Mintra denied it to the death, she also couldn't stay at the company because of this. She went to Cindy again to ask for a job, but Cindy didn't want to hire her. Mintra told Cindy that she could help her deal with Dreamer's company, planning for the F Group company to cancel the cooperation agreement. Then she used the excuse of getting something to sneak into the company, secretly installing a bug under the desk. She overheard Cream wanting to go home to meet Peter, so she followed Cream to outside her house. At this time, Cream knew nothing. She brought Peter home to talk, and found that Peter had obtained solid evidence. Found out that you have a twin sister named Cake. The person I met before was your sister Cake, right? Although you look the same on the outside. You know what, Cake has never had asthma. And most importantly, Cake has a birthmark on her waist, but you don't. Why are you guys doing this? Faced with irrefutable evidence, Cream could no longer hide it. She had to tell Peter everything, and lead him upstairs to visit her sister. When meeting Peter again, Cake looked at him for a long time. The eyes of the two people met very deeply. Cake seemed to recognize Peter too. Just as everyone was talking, Cream received a call from Tull. It turned out that Tull knew Cream was going home to visit relatives, and he also expressed his intention to come to the house to visit. In order to prevent Tull from discovering the truth that she had lied, Cream decided to leave home to meet him. Cream told everyone to take care of her sister, and instructed Peter to keep the matter of the two sisters a secret for the time being. Then, she hurriedly drove away from home. But Mintra, who was lurking outside, saw this scene and was very suspicious. She didn't understand why Peter didn't leave, but she had to follow Cream. Discovering that Cream was going to meet Tull, Mintra reported this to Wazin, and told him to send someone to monitor Cream's house. During the day, Cream met Tull, and finally she dealt with his greetings. But in the evening, she used the excuse of having to go home to take care of her relatives, asking permission to leave his house to go back to her own home. Tull thoughtfully took her home, but Cream used the excuse that she wanted to shop. So she got out of the car at the convenience store, and refused to let Tull take her all the way home. Intuition told Tull that Cream was definitely hiding something from him, and he didn't leave. Sure enough, he witnessed a shocking scene. He discovered that Peter was waiting for Cream at the convenience store. It turned out that earlier, the aunt repeated her sister's words, asking Peter if he understood her meaning. Peter cleverly guessed that her sister probably wanted to tell everyone that her car accident was not an accident, but was caused by someone, and she wanted to let everyone know who harmed her. After Cake confirmed it, Peter waited for Cream at the convenience store. He believed that the person who harmed Cake and the person who harmed Cream were the same person. He also suggested that he take Cake to the hospital for treatment, because he had contacted a very reputable neurologist. Cream also immediately agreed with Peter's plan. Seeing Cream and Pete meeting at the convenience store, Tull was so angry he was internally wounded. He even suspected that they were really a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. The next day, when Tull and Cream were in the studio, he saw Pete come to find Cream again. What made him even sadder was that Cream was warmly welcoming Pete, and the two of them were talking very intimately. He didn't know they were just exchanging information about taking her sister to the hospital for treatment. Tull's misunderstanding became increasingly angry. He had no good feelings for Pete, and was even angry at Cream. Pete also advised Cream to confess the truth to Tull, but Cream was worried that Tull would fire her because of this. So she planned to wait until after Fashion Week ended before confessing to him, and was prepared to accept all the consequences. After that, Cream felt guilty, so she bought Tull a cake, hoping to ease their relationship, but Tull was still very cold towards her. That day, an ambulance came to pick up Cake for treatment, and the mole lurking nearby immediately reported it. So Mintra ran to the hospital to check it out. She first saw Pete, and then she saw Cake sitting in a wheelchair. Hearing Pete say that Cream had eaten something wrong and was poisoned, Mintra took pictures of them clearly being in the neurology department. Pete also quickly reported this to Cream and told her to unify her statement with him. After the doctor examined Cake, he said that the patient's condition was gradually improving and suggested that everyone find something to stimulate her memory recovery. When she felt a headache, it meant that she was trying to recall the past. Cream knew that last time when her sister watched the video of their contract signing, she was stimulated, so she showed her sister the contract signing video again. Cake unexpectedly pointed out that the person who harmed her was Wazin. Afterwards, Cake also said the exact word body pillow, connecting it to the picture her sister drew. Cream realized that the circle she drew was actually the body pillow she gave her. She hurriedly took the body pillow out of the closet and gave it to her sister. Cake hurriedly opened the zipper. Pete saw this and helped her, unexpectedly finding a USB inside. Unfortunately, this body pillow had been washed by Cream, so now the USB couldn't read the data. Pete said he would go to the repair shop to recover the data. At this time, thanks to Pete's reminder, Cream also realized Wazin's previous abnormal behavior towards her. They speculated that the bad guy behind the scenes was definitely Wazin, and there was definitely evidence of his crime in this USB. However, they didn't expect that Wazin had made a move one step ahead. It turned out that Mintra had told Wazin that Cream had gone to the hospital to see the neurology department, and he was worried that Cake would recover her memory, so he sent that bad guy to Cream's house to deal with the aftermath. The bad guy first pretended to be an electrician, repairing the wires to scout the situation. After Pete left, he immediately sneaked into the house, preparing to commit the crime. He first knocked the nurse unconscious downstairs who was getting a drink, and then went upstairs to her sister's room. He pulled Cake, who was lying on the bed, to the ground. To avoid recognizing the wrong person, the bad guy turned on the flashlight to deliberately check Cake's face, confirmed that it was correct, and then prepared to strike. At this time, fortunately, Cream arrived in time to stop the bad guy, but the bad guy was very surprised to see Cream looking exactly like the woman on the ground. Just as they were wrestling, the aunt came to support with pepper spray. The bad guy ran away in a panic, but everyone didn't expect that Pete also came back to help at this time, and he also brought 2 police officers with him. The bad guy had no way out, and was finally subdued, but before being arrested, the bad guy kicked his phone out of the house. It turned out that when Pete left Cream's house, he found that the electrician looked very suspicious. So he called the electric company to ask, and found that this person was impersonating an employee of the electric company. He understood that this person definitely wanted to harm the 2 sisters Cake and Cream, so he called the police, and asked the police to come to help. Next, they went to the police station again to find out the situation, and found that this person had a triangle tattoo on his hand. They could determine that this person was also the one who set fire to the fabric place before. But the police said that without solid evidence, they couldn't convict him, because this bad guy said that he only wanted to break into the house to rob, and couldn't be convicted only based on the tattoo. Moreover, the bad guy also requested a lawyer to come and negotiate, so they had to wait for the lawyer. When Cream returned home, her heart was uneasy, because the bad guy had seen her and her sister, so the fact that they were lying would soon be revealed to Tull. After careful consideration, Cream finally mustered up the courage to confess the truth to Tull. But when Cream had just finished talking about being attacked by the bad guy, and was preparing to confess the matter of her and her sister switching identities, she had an asthma attack because of tension and fear. After she took her medicine and prepared to tell everything, she found that Tull on the other end of the phone had hung up. "I've tried everything for you, but I can't handle you hating me. I love you so much. Tull, I've never loved anyone like this." Cream cried her eyes out, unable to bear the pain of the misunderstanding. Finally, she bravely confessed her feelings to him. Tull deeply reciprocated her love. It turns out that earlier, Cake had been knocked unconscious by some bad guys. People took Cake to the hospital for treatment. After the doctor's diagnosis, they said Cake is recovering and is able to talk. Cake clearly told everyone that Wazin was the one who ordered people to deliberately cause the car accident. But there's no evidence right now, so they can't file charges, because the data on the USB is still being recovered. So Pete asked Cream to go to Wazin's office and search for any more evidence they could find, so they could all accuse him together later. Cream took advantage of the time when no one was around and secretly went into Wazin's office. She finally found a photo of him and the bad guys together. Cream immediately showed this photo to everyone. At this point, everyone realized that Wazin had also caused the fire before. There was more than one company traitor. To prevent the design ideas from being stolen, Tull immediately informed his colleagues that from now on, all design work would be done at his house. But Mintra overheard their entire conversation through a listening device. Tull asked Cream, "Why did you suddenly go searching in Wazin's office?" Seeing that Cream was still avoiding the question, Tull got very angry. That evening, after all the colleagues had finished working and went home, Cream was the only one left working overtime. Tull was still angry, so he spoke to Cream only with sarcasm and irony. Feeling that Tull still misunderstood her, Cream took out the music box that Tull had given her before. She intended to confess everything to him, but at the crucial moment Cream backed down, because she realized that Tull really hated her at this point. The two couldn't see eye to eye, so they became distant with each other. Cream suppressed her sadness, packed her things, and prepared to go home. At this moment, there was thunder and lightning outside, and it started pouring rain. Seeing Cream crying and running in the rain, Tull felt a pang of heartache and grabbed an umbrella to chase after her. He asked Cream, "Why are you crying?" At this point, Cream couldn't hold back anymore. She explained that she couldn't stand his hatred. Then she gave Tull a long, passionate confession. Tull happily stopped her with a kiss. That night, they who loved each other were finally able to understand each other and spent a wonderful and joyful night together. Waking up early the next morning, Tull accidentally saw Cream's bag. He noticed there were a lot of weight loss products inside. What shocked him even more was the music box he had given to Rose, the chubby girl from before, was also inside. He stared at the music box for a long time, unable to recover, remembering how Cream and Rose had the same way of organizing spices, remembering that Rose also had asthma like Cream, along with Cream's other unusual behavior recently. Tull suspected that Cream was Rose after losing weight, so he asked Cream where she got the music box. Cream hesitated for a moment, and then explained that the cleaning lady found it. Tull said that this was something he gave to Rose, the chubby girl from before. Afterwards, Tull became suspicious, so he told his colleagues this story, and also asked a weight loss center if Cream had ever gone there to lose weight, but the staff refused to answer for reasons of customer privacy. After understanding the details, the colleagues felt that Tull's suspicion was reasonable, but they couldn't understand who was the person who initially came to participate in the competition, the first person to come to work. This made Tull temporarily dismiss his suspicions. But in another development, Pete also confessed his feelings to Cake. Before that, when she was in a coma, he had mistaken your sister for the goddess in his heart, and confessed his feelings to her, asking her to be his girlfriend. Cake listened and quietly smiled without answering. At this moment, Cream and her aunt interrupted their conversation, bringing good news to the sister, that as long as she rested for a few more days in the hospital, she could be discharged and go home, and also said they were looking for evidence to actively arrest the culprit, because the lawyer couldn't bail the bad guy out. To avoid his crimes being exposed, Wazin had his lawyer use illegal means to get the bad guy out of prison. But then they were surprised to find that someone had already moved faster and rescued the bad guy. It turned out that this person was Cindy. She forced the bad guy to tell the secret between him and Wazin. The bad guy had no choice but to comply, and then planned to take the money and run away. The bad guy snatched a phone from a passerby, intending to contact Wazin, but just as he was about to talk, Cindy's people were sent to check up on him. Because the bad guy disappeared from prison, the police then came to the company to question Wazin. Although Wazin lied and said he didn't know anything, Tull still suspended his work because he was related to the case. And then, Wazin was very dissatisfied with this, but he couldn't do anything about the board of directors' decision. He went home in frustration and found that Cindy had been waiting there for a long time. It turned out that Cindy wanted Wazin to cooperate with her to deal with the Dreamer Company together. Meanwhile, Cake had recovered after receiving rehabilitation treatment. Cream told her sister that after Fashion Week ended, she had decided to confess everything to Tull, and said that she had developed a close relationship with him, and also said that Pete had always pursued and cared for her sister, and advised her to open her heart to Pete and accept his feelings. Finally, the day arrived for Cream to submit her work to the company. Before the meeting started, Cream told Tull that after the meeting, she wanted to talk to him clearly. Originally, Cream had planned to confess the truth to Tull after the work was completed, but unexpectedly, just as the meeting was about to begin, Wazin and Mintra burst into the meeting room. Together, they exposed the fact that Cream and her twin sister had swapped identities to deceive everyone, and sent all the evidence they found to all the colleagues present. After seeing the solid evidence, everyone was shocked. Cream had no choice but to admit it, but she honestly explained the reason for her deception to everyone. Seeing the shareholders blaming Tull, criticizing him for how he could let a fraudster work in the company, Cream quickly explained that Tull knew nothing at all, and the whole thing had nothing to do with him. She solemnly promised that the design work was entirely done by her own hands, and there was no element of fraud. But Wazin used this as an excuse to further incite the shareholders. Fortunately, Tull kicked him and Mintra out, and insisted on letting Cream present her work to the group. But after the meeting ended, Tull, full of disappointment, broke up with Cream. He was angry because Cream treated him like a joke, and declared that from now on, besides the necessary exchanges at work, they would not meet privately anymore. And Cream was heartbroken that Tull didn't give her a chance to explain, but her family warmly encouraged and comforted her. Her sister also told Cream that she used to like Tull very much, but now she felt more comfortable with Pete. She advised her sister to find Tull and explain things clearly, and she believed that her sister would once again win Tull's heart. Encouraged by her sister, Cream went to Tull's house to beg for forgiveness. She mustered all her courage to explain the whole story, but Tull was completely impatient to listen to her. He only felt that his sincerity had been trampled on, and became even angrier when he remembered the countless times he had expressed his suspicions, asking her the truth, but Cream at that time had repeatedly chosen to lie to cover it up. Tull doubted Cream's love for him. Disappointed and heartbroken, he said goodbye, and then turned and left without looking back, leaving Cream standing there crying in the rain. The next day, Cream went to the company and explained her difficulties to her colleagues. Everyone understood and chose to forgive her. Cream found out that Tull wasn't coming to the company to avoid her, and he had even instructed the secretary to exchange work with the studio in his place from now on. But soon after, Cream discovered that the story of her and her sister swapping identities to work had been posted online. There was a lot of negative news online, which was detrimental to the company. Wazin used this as an excuse to demand that Tull fire Cream and cancel the project. But Tull used his power to keep Cream in charge of the project, because he had made a firm commitment that if the project failed, he would actively resign as chairman. After calming the shareholders' dispute, Tull calmly said to Cream, "From now on, just do your job well." At the same time, Pete was frequently by her sister's side to practice rehabilitation, and the two of them became more and more in sync, and their feelings gradually developed, and without realizing it, the smile on her sister's face became more frequent. That day, they were surprised to find Tull visiting the sister at her house. He politely asked about her health. The sister also tried to explain for her sister, hoping Tull could forgive Cream, but it was no use. Tull once again emphasized that he would draw a clear line with Cream, and that they would only exchange work matters from now on, then left disappointed. Seeing this, Pete ran out to defend her. He explained that Cream had wanted to confess the truth a long time ago, but she continued to cover it up for her sister's safety, because her sister had discovered evidence of Wazin's crime and had the car accident. If they revealed the truth, it would put her sister in danger, and Cream also wanted to help Dreamer Company sign a contract. Tull didn't know the truth and asked about the evidence in the USB. Pete said that the USB was still being repaired. At this time, Tull's heart gradually softened. But that evening, when Tull watched Cream's live stream, he was even more moved. It turned out that Cream had learned from a secretary friend that if this project failed, Tull would have to resign as chairman. But Dream, not wanting to involve him, opened a live video broadcast online. She explained that she loved design, and that during the design competition that year, she was too nervous, so she asked her sister to go on stage and participate, and then by fate Dreamer Company chose her as design director. She originally planned to swap back with her sister after she lost weight successfully, She explained about the competition work, presenting that her design had no element of fraud. Then, she showed everyone all the original design sketches and announced that after Fashion Week ended, she would leave Dreamer Company. Her sister also appeared to defend Cream, asking everyone not to blame them. After hearing the sincere explanations of the two sisters online, more people supported and sympathized with them. Tull, after watching Cream's livestream, his heart also broke with emotion. He hesitated, wondering whether he should forgive Cream or not. Love won. And finally Tull put himself in Cream's place, understanding the hardships and past misunderstandings. His heart chose forgiveness, opening up hope for a happy new beginning. But the sweet moment was interrupted by a clumsy accident. The documents fell everywhere. And it was at this moment when both of them bent down that a shocking secret was revealed. The listening device hidden under the table was accidentally discovered by Tull. At this moment, Pete called to inform Cream that the USB containing the evidence had been recovered, telling them to go to the repair shop together to pick it up. Quickly connecting this to the listening device they had just discovered, Cream decided to use a trick to trick the enemy. She deliberately spoke loudly about the evidence in the USB and revealed the time they would go to the repair shop, wanting to use this to lure the real culprit into walking right into their trap. And the fish took the bait. Mintra, who was always hiding, heard the conversation and immediately acted. She forced Wazin to reveal the contents of the USB and learned that the USB not only had evidence against Wazin, but even Cindy was involved because of illegal labor. Mintra also wanted to get the USB to demand a reward from Cindy. At the same time, the trio of Cream, Tull and Pete had the real evidence in hand. The video revealed all of Wazin's sinister plot to silence Cake. Justice was about to be served, but Cream had moved one step ahead, anticipating the danger, and secretly swapped the USB. As expected, the fake USB was quickly snatched by a stranger and delivered to Wazin. The drama didn't stop there. Mintra suddenly appeared, using a taser to knock out Wazin and seize the USB, hoping to receive a big reward. Mintra happily handed the evidence to Cindy, but life isn't always what you dream of. Cindy only found a mocking meme inside. In the moment that she was still stunned, Tull and Cream, along with the police, appeared. The play came to an end. It turned out that after viewing the evidence in the real USB, the police immediately had an arrest warrant and took Cindy and Mintra back to the police station for questioning. Because the evidence of Wazin's crimes was too clear, the police directly arrested and imprisoned him. Mintra, however, denied being an accomplice in the arson case. Lacking solid evidence, the police had to temporarily release her. Afterward, Cindy not only hired a lawyer to defend her, but also denied that she was the boss behind the garment factory and using illegal labor, thus temporarily escaping imprisonment. Amidst the tension, the television station reported that the police had discovered the body of the arsonist and said they were searching for the culprit. Later, Tull also made a statement to reporters, saying that they had found the traitor who had betrayed the company and publicly thanked Cream. Thanks to her efforts, they were able to find the traitor. At the same time, Pete reassured the public, saying that Cake's sister swapping identities would not affect the contract between the F Group and Dreamer Company. After the storms at work, Pete also made time for love. After handling his work, he began to actively pursue his love. That day, he took Cake to a restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant turned out to be his mother. Pete introduced Cake to his mother, and his mother was very satisfied with Cake. Through her conversation with his mother, Cake also understood another side of him that she didn't know. Her feelings for him increased by several degrees. And then, Pete's sweet confession was happily accepted by Cake. A new couple had officially entered the love story. The love story of Cake and Pete had just had a happy ending, and now it was Cream and Tull's turn. Under the encouragement of friends, Tull decided to take a step forward. That day, after Cream finished presenting her work, he was about to open his heart to her. But at this moment bad news struck again. Cindy's lawyer, citing that the evidence was illegally obtained, successfully bailed her out. Cindy, just after being released, immediately triumphantly called Tull, mocking him for wasting his efforts. Out of options, Cream and Tull turned to Mintra for help, asking her to testify against Cindy. Mintra initially refused, but when she saw the news of Wazin's self-harm in prison, she realized Cindy's cruelty and wickedness. Mintra guessed that Wazin had been harmed by Cindy to keep his secrets, and also guessed that she would be next. In fact, Mintra's prediction was accurate. Cindy was ordering her henchmen to deal with her. Sensing that something was wrong, Mintra contacted Cream, saying that she had rock-solid evidence of Cindy's crimes. It turned out that earlier, when Cindy ordered her subordinates to take care of the arsonist, Mintra had secretly filmed a video of it as evidence. Mintra demanded that Cream and Tull guarantee her safety, then she would give them the video evidence. The meeting took place, and the evidence was handed over. But just as they were about to leave, Cindy's people arrived. Danger was imminent. Just as Cindy's goons were taking Cream and Mintra away, a ray of hope appeared when Tull showed up right on time with the police. They managed to rescue them and arrest the whole gang. The lawyer was quick on the ball and recorded the whole dramatic scene, which became solid proof to send to Cindy. As for Mintra, even though she was involved in the murder plot, because she didn't report it, she got a chance to get off easier if she honestly helped by giving information that would help solve the case. With this chance, Mintra told them everything. The long arm of the law caught up, and the police immediately put out a warrant for Cindy's arrest. But when they went to find her, she had already skipped town and vanished without a trace. Free from Cindy's shadow, Cream thrived like a fish in water, putting all her heart and talent into finishing her collection for Paris Fashion Week. Her show was a huge hit, officially making her dream of soaring on the international stage come true. Back from the City of Lights, Tull threw a big party, both to celebrate Cream's amazing success and to announce plans to expand the company's branch to France. In the happy atmosphere, her colleagues eagerly tried to get Cream to stay and contribute, but Tull's indifferent look and lack of any expression made her stick to her decision to resign, which she'd already been thinking about for a while. Seeing what was happening, a close colleague, with the wisdom of an outsider, couldn't stay silent and tried to advise Tull. He emphasized that with her current talent and reputation, Cream was being sought after by countless big companies. Dreamer could lose a diamond designer, but more worryingly, would Tull be able to find another kindred spirit who understood him in work and could be with him in life like Cream? Those heartfelt words touched Tull. He promised to have an open and honest conversation with Cream after the upcoming important meeting. Meanwhile, Cake's life was also blossoming. She went back to her job as a salesperson and continued to hold her spot as sales queen. Peter, with his sincere love, had prepared a cozy apartment as their future nest. And taking this opportunity, he proposed, hoping to write the rest of their love story with Cake until the end of their lives. The next morning, Cream officially submitted her resignation to Tull and also returned the music box, their special keepsake of love. But Tull stopped her. He took Cream to his mother's old house, where many memories were kept. He wanted to share the joy that it was thanks to Cream's invaluable support and help that he had revived the company, upholding his mother's passion. Just when Tull was about to confess his love and express the feelings he'd been holding back for so long, Cindy suddenly appeared like a ghost from the past, tying them both up, determined to settle all the old debts and new grudges at once. Right when things were at their worst, Cake called Cream. With Cindy threatening her, Cream had to lie, saying she was with Tull getting ready to go back to the company. But, with a sister's intuition, Cake could tell something was wrong from the shaky sound of her voice. Without a second thought, Cake quickly asked the assistant for the address of Tull's mother's house and rushed over there. At the same time, to buy time waiting for help, Cream cleverly tried to confuse Cindy. She said she knew the real reason Cindy hated Tull and had always planned to take over the company. It was a letter from Tull's mother, explaining all her decisions from years ago. Cream pretended to look for the letter in the cabinet, quickly grabbed a pair of scissors, and taking advantage of a moment when Cindy wasn't paying attention, bravely took her down. But just as Tull and Cream were about to escape, Cindy suddenly woke up. Losing it, she lashed out and attacked Cream, with the cruel intention of making Tull feel the pain of losing someone he loved. Luckily, right at that life or death moment, Pete and the police burst in. Surrounded by the law, Pete advised Cindy to turn herself in to get leniency. Cindy, bitterly admitting defeat after all her scheming, knew she was trapped and had no choice but to drop her weapon and surrender. Tull frantically took Cream to the hospital emergency room. There, Cake couldn't hold back her pain, tearfully scolding Tull. How could he have never thought about forgiving Cream all this time? Everything she had done, from forcing herself to lose weight to exhaustion, giving up the job she was most passionate about, to now lying in the operating room fighting for her life, was all for him. And yet, she still hadn't received a word of forgiveness from him? Cake's words were like knives twisting in Tull's heart. He stood silently, tearfully apologizing to everyone for his coldness and stubbornness. He tormented himself, thinking that if anything happened to Cream, he might never be able to forgive himself. The stressful surgery finally ended. Beside the hospital bed, Tull tightly held Cream's weak hand. In that moment, all the barriers in his heart crumbled. He bravely faced his own heart, confessing the love he had hidden for so long. He forgave her, and he loved her so much. As if by a miracle, Tull's sincere and heartfelt confession woke Cream up. She smiled weakly, but her eyes shone with boundless happiness. They decided to give each other a chance for their love, to start over from the past hurts. After Cream fully recovered, Tull secretly prepared a romantic and surprise proposal. In front of friends and family, he knelt down, his eyes full of love, his voice sincere. Maybe we had a wrong start, huh? But the luckiest thing is that we bravely fixed things together and found each other again amidst countless challenges. Now I'm completely sure that you are the only woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. Baby girl, will you be my wife? Cream's I do echoed in the applause and congratulations of everyone. Finally, after all the storms, challenges, and misunderstandings, those who truly loved each other found their way back to each other. The love stories of the two sisters Cake and Cream, each unique, had both reached their happy ending, writing a satisfying, sweet, and memorable conclusion. This is where the story ends. Don't forget to like and subscribe to not miss out on more amazing videos. For now, goodbye and until next time.